Everyone, I am miserable, just a little sick, and even if I wasn't sick, the whole world is sick with this coronavirus. So I'm wearing this mask just for fun, and I am in this state of endless Thanksgiving, just being with my parents for day after day after day. And I just snuck off to review three films. They Shoot Horses, Don't They? 1969, Being There, and Norma Rae from 1979. All three of these films won an Oscar for an actor, which is the only thing they have in common as far as I know. Let's start with They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Because I read the book and I watched the movie. And it is a film about dance marathons. It's based on a book by a guy who was a bouncer during a number of these dance marathons in the 1930s. A dance marathon is something that happened in the 1930s, which was not as fun as it looked. People would be required to stay up day and night with 10-minute breaks, at least in the rules of this fictionalized dance marathon. And whoever was left standing after however many weeks or months would win a big cash prize. And in the meantime, everyone would get medical care and 3 or 4 meals a day. And life was bleak enough that people would just do this. And sometimes they might get cash thrown at them for dancing well, or they might get sponsors. But, especially if 100-something couples entered and only one wins, it was not a profitable venture. And the movie is very bleak about this. I won't spoil the ending, but the ending makes it even bleaker, and it just shows a very bleak society, which is odd because the movie is about a pair of bleak characters at various levels of bleakness. There is a suicidal woman played by Jane Fonda, and a very young Jane Fonda, and a very great job, who just has very well-established reasons for not wanting to live anymore. And she has a partner who's also down on his luck, but he's not at that level yet. And there's a contrast between them. But when you put that contrast with an entire competition that's rigged to make everyone miserable, it sort of reinforces it. Where in the book, the competition isn't rigged as much. So, in the meantime, the film also stars a very young Bruce Dern. He's very convincing. Red Buttons, who was a comic who was in the Poseidon Adventure. It also stars Gig Young, who was a guy I studied for a very long, long time. And he is a man who had a career for 3 decades as a kind of amiable personality. He was in a bunch of Doris Day comedies as kind of like the Colin Firth role in the Renee Zellweger comedies. And then he went on to murder himself and his wife. He won an Oscar for this film, and I think very well deserved, in the Best Supporting Actor category. It's also a film that has very good, costume design and, a very good technical feel. It's a film by Sidney Pollack, who who does period pieces, but he's never made a period piece quite like this. I think Out of Africa is just drizzling with period details. This is period details with purpose. Let's talk about Norma Rae. Norma Rae is a film that I took on for a project I did about films and capitalism, and it is about it stars Sally Field as a labor organizer, and it stars some guy whose name I've never heard of, and whose name I'm not going to look up now because I'm rolling and I don't have a IMDb. And he is like blah blah, and he starts a labor union, and he's a guy who just doesn't quit. He's like the Determinator, as TV Trope says. He doesn't quit. He wants to go and create a labor union. And this is a film that was made by Martin Ritt, who is a person with definite, strong pro-labor left-wing intentions, who might even be described as a socialist, who made a film that was very handheld, Steven Soderbergh-ish, and its photographic style, and you could say it's kind of a guerrilla making, and that kind of mirrors the theme of the movement that Norma Rae does with something else. What I also liked about Norma Rae was that it has a romance with Norma Rae and with Sally Field. Oh, and Sally Field is quite the looker in this movie. It's a young Sally Field. Sally Field and Beau Bridges, the brother of Jeff Bridges, who you've seen in a few other movies like The Descendants and The Good German and all kinds of stuff. And there's that, and there's the lead guy, and the lead guy's a good-looking guy, and that's just this, their working relationship doesn't necessarily conflict or have to do with the marriage they have. And it's just, they don't treat it as like, oh, there's a good looking guy, he has to, like, disrupt their marriage. In real life, the two didn't get together. So, it's basically about this, it's about these two professional guys on a mission, and then it's about this woman and this man trying to make a marriage work. And it's just two separate things. The film has a number of iconic scenes, like Norma Rae standing on the table and resisting arrest, and she becomes more of a firecracker as the film goes on. Sally Field won a Best Picture for the Best Oscar Actor for this, and the film was nominated for Best Picture, and it's probably won a bunch of other awards. Who knows? Anyway, lastly, I did see Being There. I saw this last night, and it stars Peter Sellers. He's best known for the Pink Panther roles. He's also known for the really funny Casino Royale thing and Dr. Strangelove. And he is a funny comedian, but in this film, which is funny, but not ha-ha funny, he plays the film straight. He plays the character straight. He's a man who's simple, who's either mentally slow, but we don't know if it's nature or nurture. We know that he was raised simply as a gardener. He never left the house once in his entire life, and he's probably around 50 years old now. And he's also a man who never had any education. He never learned to read or write. He just watches TV and listens to the radio. So therefore, he's a man who... so he ends up getting really far. It's a little bit of a precursor to Forrest Gump, a spiritual precursor to Forrest Gump. And this man is very simple, gets to meet the president and like bend his ear and become a major figure in Washington. And it's absolutely... It's a movie with very comic moments, but it has a very interesting relationship to comedy. It stars Peter Sellers. It also stars Melvin Douglas, who won his second Oscar for Best Supporting Actor here. It also stars Shirley MacLaine, which is ironic because Shirley MacLaine is from Arlington, Virginia, my hometown, where I'm broadcasting now. And the film takes place in Washington, D.C. It's one of the few films I know of to take place in Washington, D.C. It's shot there. I recognize the photography. And it's also shot in the Biltmore Estate in North Carolina, which was home of once the richest family in the country, the Vanderbilt family. And it is an absolute wonderful film. Absolutely. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. It's so great. And let me know if you think you're going to get sick from my coronavirus, Anyway, I'm going to cough a lot and, spill out some blood. Well, anyway, this happens. Bye.